and he didn't know where he was. And she called upon her guides to release him. And by the next 2 days later, I had no more trouble.
Is that any? No.
I'd like to say the mere fact that she says that she wants to help him or release him doesn't necessarily mean so. Even though, although she may say so consciously, but on the lower level, subconsciously, she still wants him around, she still wants to suffer, she still wants to have all these problems, and it appeared that way, the mere fact that she took to marry another man in a handicapped situation.
I might like to agree with you because of the fact that many times in situations like this, the attachment, unbeknownst to the person, becomes so strong that it keeps the entity earthbound, either out of love or hate, or probably unbeknownst to them. So I know we can get on and on and on in this case, but I think we have about 4 or 5 cases to go. I would really like to bring this to a close and work on this as it presents itself. Husband died 55, age 18, had an accident. Now, I don't know why, but I get that that person had a karmic problem from the beginning because his own family problems stems from his family. I think we all go through that. That it has, you have to trace it back to your ancestors or grandparents or something. But as we come down in this end here, the husband number 2, we don't have too much about that. Number 1, he returns to visit his wife to tell her he loves her. There is a possibility there has been guilt all during the life that he lived with her. Number 1 is the fact that he's incapacitated. He feels that the wife is far superior than he is as far as status is concerned. So he feels that incapacitation does not fulfill his role as a husband. So I think that guilt, it just made it worse for him. So then we come down to the point that, I say guilt. And someone suggested the love of the land. Now, when I say guilt is so powerful that it may be so little, and yet it stays within your computer for so long, it's hard to pull it out. Because this feeling of guilt attracts other guilts in his lifetime and past lives, which weighs it down. The love of the land, I wonder whether he did love the land. Because if he worked so hard, and he never made a success of himself, gives me the idea that he did not have self-confidence because he shifts from pillar to post. He never stuck to one thing. There was no stick-to-itiveness in his character or attitude. And I think he felt that his wife, being a social worker, this happens in life today. We have actors and actresses are more popular than their husbands. So the husband is Mrs. Actress. They are in a menial and low position. And it hurts the man because the man should be the head of the household. So that puts him in a subordinate position. And then we come down to the point that he needs to clear up his, failures. Well, this is where, in bringing a closer introspection or taking into consideration or stock exactly where he's at, and I probably at that time he's at the low rung of the ladder. Depression, of course, contributes to his problem. Personal belongings, someone suggested. I say personal belongings after he died. There is that unhipili or attachment that is hanging on to the objects. That is one of the things that you need to cleanse when anyone passes on. It's very, very important because he attaches himself. This is why when you're giving out clothing, furniture to Goodwill or anyone, please demagnetize them and release the attachment of the person or spirit onto the object. So still hanging around, so he's attached. Maybe he has his plow that he's attached to, or his horse, or whatever it is that he has, personal clothing. So he's a part of it. It's in his home. So he's also looking for validation, looking for help to free himself from karmic ties. Now, it's a possibility he might have done something to his wife in previous lives. There's that possibility to have been put in this precarious position. And children and families. When we say children, they are our first link. Now, the children, grandparents, ancestors are very important. So the hang-ups of our ancestors become our hang-ups until we can cut the Akka cord from it and resolve it. So the children will be affected if we do not help, as a gentleman said, help to release this man. Now, as far as the wife, she remarried, she's a social worker. Now, compare her position with the farmer that the husband is. Now, she works in rehabilitation and exposed to different types of vibration, so naturally she's bombarded and affected by them. She brings them home, affects the husband, who possibly is much more sensitive. Now, anyone who does not stick to one thing and flits from pillar to post naturally is susceptible to these vibrations from the outer, negative. Now, this is really difficult job to do. If you don't know, you become a victim of circumstances, or your family does. So, and having been in it for so long, it makes it that much harder. Then we come to the property where the farm is. Who owned the property before and before all the way back? Now, you're getting the vibration of the former owners and transferred down to the other. What kind of a personalities did they have? Was somebody murdered, killed, committed suicide on that property? So you come into those hang-ups too, possibilities. Then there are earthbound spirits possibly on the property, in the house, on the equipment that they have. If they leased some of the equipment, maybe somebody who owned the equipment had died and has an attachment on those things. Now, now we look at the cases that she has handled. Deceased inmates were also earthbound. So there's a lot of things on her side that could possibly affect him. She wants to square herself with her husband. As someone suggested, love and hate possibly could be there. Well, that's kind of hard because I think at many times in our lives we've had both emotions in all of us. But I think with her, possibly she really doesn't know how to release or let go. She let go. I think she means well, but the idea of hanging on, the feeling, is she in mourning? Does she feel sorry that he died?
Not at this time.
No, at the time of decease.
I think so.
So, now we're talking about checking the validity of her relationship with her husband. How valid was it? See, you're the judge. You're going to weigh all this. How valid was her relationship with him? Did she look down on her with disdain? There are many times they do. We find if the wife or husband has a higher position, it's really difficult for the other mate to match the other mate. So the other mate gets more and more lost in the shuffle as they go on through life. So there's a possibility. To me, that's a very strong possibility. So her mental block. She has many mental blocks. And I would like to look a little deeper into her earlier life and earlier beginning and her grandparents and ancestors. So this is a rough idea of what we're working with. It can go on and on and on and on, but we do not have time. So the suggestion is it behooves us at this time to release the man. Okay, the only possible way that I could suggest would be through the process of Ho'oponopono. The gentleman had spoken about Catherine ponders certain types of affirmation. I'm very familiar with that. And many other forms of affirmations, suggestions of love. But how many of us do know what love is? How can you tell someone else, now let's see, you should express love. What is love? I may be able to know what love is. You don't know how I feel love is. Maybe in her interpretation, it differs with what you're trying to express or expect to achieve. But I feel that she is very strong because her subconscious mind is very stubborn. I could see that. Stubborn, confused, but there is a lot of arrogance in it. Because this is the way I feel. So in spite of what the characters present themselves, I feel it behooves us to work first with the husband and wife, number 1 and number 2. Wife and the husband. So we have to work one to the other, and the wife and the husband, husband and wife. And then both with the children. Did they have children on both sides? Or they just had children of their own?
Children of their own. No,
None
they
with
haven't
former
any
marriage.
children of their own. No. From the previous marriage.
Well, then you have to have former wife and former husband. See, this is really, it keeps going on, and until you can go into these finite points, you're going to find you're going to leave something out dangling that you have not answered or tried to cover. Now, husband and children, because the children belong to the former marriages. Oh, okay. All right. And these are important because the children have a tie. When we're looking at the children, they are the issues from the parents, and their link is there. So you must take care of all of them, okay? Possible grandchildren? No grandchildren?
Yes.
Grandchildren, okay.
How about his parents and her parents?
Yeah, I
They
think...
could have both been derogatory in their relationships with him for being inadequate.
Well, yeah, that's why we say earlier life, parents and ancestors. Don't forget the ancestors, because we always forget that ancestors are important. They're very important. Yes.
But